next board meeting. Okay, our first item tonight on the agenda is the conditional rezoning petition number 1701, U.S. Developments LLC, requesting rezoning classification from R40 to B4CZ, containing 27.5 acres, being tax map number 06138-017, located on NC Highway 16, being within the Sandy Ridge Township. So at this time, do we have a presenter?
Yeah, so we'll do like we've done in the past. We'll give a little synopsis of the project from the staff's perspective. We'll allow the developer to come up and give a presentation, open it up for then public comments from the public, and then we'll come back at the end and do a staff recommendation at the end, if that's okay. Chairman pretty much read up the synopsis, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But just so you're aware of this, this is a request for conditional zoning to B4. It is a more of a what we would call a retail and office use along Highway 16 in the Waxhaw area. This is approximately 27.5 acres. That's just a site plan there for you to see. The developer here obviously has some, I guess, a presentation he'd like to give to you. But what we will do is at the end, we'll give you our staff recommendations. We did go through a process with this. I do want to comment that this is surrounded by the town of Waxhaw's jurisdiction. This is kind of a donut hole. The town does have a Highway 16 corridor plan, as well as a comprehensive plan that included this property. We did not, unfortunately, include that in our staff report. That was our mistake, but I will go over that as well with you when we talk about our staff analysis for that. But I'll turn it over to the developer, and he can give his presentation.
Thank you, Brian. We'd like to thank the staff for their assistance. We started this last September. My name is Stephen Rosenborough with U.S. Developments. What you have before you is a 27-acre mixed-use development, as was stated by staff, commercial and residential. We've presented this to the Waxhaw town manager, previous, current. We've discussed it with the Waxhaw Downtown Redevelopment staff person. We've discussed this with the County Economic Development Group with Chris. So we've tried to reach out to those that would have an interest in what we're doing. We've held 2 public meetings. And really, if there's any question, we're here to answer any question that the board may have, or any question from staff.
I guess what did Waxhaw, what was their response to this proposed development?
It was not positive or negative. That's not true. They'd love to have it in their town. That was the only comment that's been made, and we're working with the downtown redevelopment staff person to share leads for retail development. We're sharing ours and they're sharing theirs.
Brian, what part of Waxhaw's comprehensive plan, I know you said it wasn't included in our package, but can you
So the town's land use plan, their future land use plan identified this as sort of mixed residential in their area. They had provisions for some commercial along the street frontage, and then ultimately their plan called for more open space and recreation uses towards the back of the property. Again, that was their Highway 16 corridor study, as well as their comprehensive plan both identified it with some commercial at the road frontage, and then the rest really being mostly open space and recreation.
Does the county have any plans at this point to widen that section of Highway 16, and will that impact any of this development?
That's a good question. I'm actually going to defer to our transportation planner, Bjorn Hansen, and let him answer that question. Again, the county itself doesn't do widening, but there is plans from NCDOT. I'll let him speak to that, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I'm Bjorn Hansen, I'm transportation planner with the county. This section of Providence Road is the southern of the two phases for the future widening of Providence, going from the current multi-lane section in Weddington going south to approximately Kensington, and then, or Cuthbertson, I'm sorry, Cuthbertson, and then the second phase going down. They're both committed projects in the terminology of the NCDOT, which means that the money is there to build them. They are still in the right-of-way design phase, environmental phase. It's not like they're going to start construction the next year, but it will be in the next several years that construction will be occurring. It'll go from north to south, so you'll see construction early on north of here, and then later on south of here, going all the way to the Waxhaw Parkway. And it'll be the same cross-section of the current NC-16 with 4 lanes with a median, curb and gutter, most likely sidewalk along the entire way.
How much of that will be impacted? Because you've got buildings that look like they're fairly close to the road.
This site plan includes a 100-foot right-of-way and then has the setback off of that. They're dedicating the right-of-way to the NCDOT so that they will not have to come and purchase the land along the frontage along here. It will already be under ownership by then, and by them, and the setbacks for those buildings is based on the future right-of-way. So they're where they're supposed to be according to the zoning.
Any other questions?
I guess, I got a question, sorry, forget your name. Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes, sir.
I'm a kind of a fan of waterways. Looks like on your, at least on the GIS map, you have 2 waterways, and one that's gonna run, you can see it right there, that runs there, and then dead ends. I mean, how do you plan on dealing with the water flow?
We're going to make that open space. Those are 2 detention ponds. It'll become water features, and then that creek, which is intermittent, but I'll refer to our planner for more detailed examination, but we'll leave that open, natural as it is today. And that continues down several 100 yards.
Right. Have you talked to the residents?
We did with we had 2 public hearings in Waxhaw for the residents.
And what was the feedback that you got from that?
There wasn't a lot. We kept records of that, which staff was there as well, the planning staff. The biggest concern was the backing up to the homes that are directly to the east of the property, and we've agreed to create a buffer. And these buildings will actually sit below their property line. So they were concerned about the buffer that was there. And as you can see, we've tried to make it adequate. And again, changing the elevation so we'll sit below those residential properties.
Will those be one level, multi-level?
The building on the right, the larger one's 1 level. The others will be 2 or 3.
How large is that largest building?
75,000 square feet.
What would you typically envision going in?
A small format Target or Costco, that type of club development. And then on the front, maybe I should have given a better explanation, I apologize. That's your Starbucks type of Chick-fil-A, the 4 units across the front, and then on the back, office buildings. As you know, Novant is across the street, CMC's down the street. We would expect that would be a medical type of facility. Insurance, very standard type of suburban office. There's a strong retail need in Waxhaw. We've had a study done that looks at the need. It's under-retailed.
Have you been in any sort of negotiations with any of the big box retailers at this point?
Talking, no negotiations that I would say would be negotiation. Simply reaching out to them.
So this is kind of more of a speculative venture.
Very much so.
at this point, okay. Can you, I'm not familiar with, I guess, what is your background as far as land development, and is this,
I've been in it 35 years. Do you know Stonebridge?
Mhm.
Birkdale Village? Those are projects that I've done. Yeah. I don't know anything else. I have to keep doing this.
I know Stephen, and he's been in this a long time and very, very good at what he does.
What type of buffer are you considering for those neighbors?
Mark, please. Mark can give you more detail.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Mark Heim, with Land Design. It's a S2 high profile buffer, about 20 feet wide. It's about the maximum size buffer that they require.
What about lighting in the parking lot? You know, I mean, how do you envision the lighting? And I know some of it can be dealt with in the conditional phase if it gets to that point, but
We figure we've done some preliminary engineering, just looking at how the building's gonna sit in relation to the actual existing development. If it's sitting 8 to 10 feet lower with that vegetative screen, we feel like most of the, we can't have any light extending into the neighborhood anyway, so it's regulations.
uh,
We feel like the vegetative screen is right at the park, parking lot light.
this would probably be a development that would have majority of the hours of the day with some kind of activity in it. I'm not saying 24 hours, but
No, I mean, based on where it's located, this would be primarily that 9 to 6 sort of activity. Some of these stores, as you know, will be open till 9 at night, but not after that. We're not planning an entertainment center or shooting range or anything of that nature.
Can you talk about some of the ingress, egress? I see there's 2 entrances there. What are the plans as far as left turn, right turn capabilities? And
There'll be a traffic light at the first entrance from running north to south,
Okay.
which the neighbors were very much encouraged by because they said they can't get out there. And then the second exit is a full in and out, and we're paying for improvements in front of the site. There's a turn lane that'll be put in as well as the light, and a sidewalk.
Would you cover that light again? Where's that light gonna be?
Right at that road, the cross street, right there.
Right there?
Thank you, sir.
So that leads into the Kensington subdivision.
Correct. Is that,
I believe that is Kensington.
Brian, help me.
I believe that is Kensington, yeah.
Okay. What does your traffic study say that will impede the public safety building there, the police department? Police cars entering and exiting.
What does it say about that?
Yeah. What'd you find out when you did
That
Transportation study.
that the light was okay. We generated a need for a light, and we have a turn lane, but there was nothing specific about the police department in the study. We've coordinated that with DOT and the town of Waxhaw. I think the man's name is Dennis Rory, was in part of those discussions.
Any other questions or concerns?
Did you say the second entrance was a right-in, left-out only?
No, that's a full interchange on the TIA.
Now, understand that when improvements are done to 16, that will become a
Right.
right in, right out only. Because that will be, I think it's planned to be median divided in there.
It's, I mean, you're no likelihood you're gonna keep the signal, but the one to the south, it could be a leftover, it could be a median with no left access, could be right in, right out, it's too early to say.
But there will be some form of median in that location.
I mean, Brian's point, there's a median showing, and correct me if I'm wrong, all the way down the yeah, north part of the property.
When I look at the plan of the large building, am I correct in seeing that the east side of that large building is where the loading dock is?
Yes, sir.
And what kind of buffer do you have between that building and the residence?
Again, we're sitting below the ground 8 to 10 feet, plus the vegetation behind it. And then that, I mean, I'm going to estimate from the back of the building, be 110 feet, probably 110 feet from the backyard, not the back of the house. Then you have the depth of the yard behind that.
What would be your time frame for construction? What, I mean, I know it's, that's always a real gray area, but.
You know, as somebody said, I don't like to use the term speculative, but you have to find a user first, and you have to come back with a site plan that's acceptable to the community. I mean, you won't see anything, there won't be a door open here before 18 months, and the first thing will be those parcels along Providence, because that's where the real demand is today. Second demand would probably be the office. I mean, there is a demand for some office space. So that other large retail, I don't see a door open before 24 months.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be realistic.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I'm not
We
sure
own
who's-
we own a site at 601 and 74, the new bypass we purchased 10 years ago, and we still don't have anything there today.
Not sure who this question should be directed to, but the end of the subdivision behind it, you've got a road that dead ends at the very top corner of your property. What is the anticipated plan for that?
I think to remain as it is. There's a path required, which we've agreed to connect this, a walking path, but not a road. There wasn't any desire to have a connection there.
But we do have the upper left corner, we do have cross easements put in the site plan so that as the parcel to the north, which is within Waxhaw, develops, there is the potential for a road connection if it's appropriate. That subdivision was permitted within Waxhaw, they stubbed it out. If this cross easement were provided, you couldn't have the connection occur because the land wouldn't be there.
Right.
So we included it to provide for future options.
Okay.
Bjorn, you said this was in the second phase of the widening of Providence Road?
It is, sir, but they're gonna be, like, just continuous, you're not gonna really know when one stops and the second begins, it'll just keep on marching down 60.
But you don't know when it's gonna start.
A few years. I mean,
Like-
they still have to go through the environmental permitting.
Like
and design.
2025, a few years?
No, it'll be well underway before then.
Okay.
The state told us 2023 was their plan.
On the transportation, would you say in 5, 10? How many years would you say? Getting the,
For completion or for starting?
for starting?
I mean, you should see dirt turning in 6 years.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to address this? Please come up. If you could, state your name and your address, please, for the record.
My name is Kathy Reese. My husband James Reese and I live at 2137 Majestic Poplar Drive in the Camberley neighborhood. We have numerous concerns to share regarding the proposed development as our lot borders the development area. We have voiced these concerns to the developer at the 2 community meetings. We are counting on Union County to protect these concerns as we are residents. We are concerned about light pollution and noise pollution from the development and businesses while enjoying the privacy of our backyard. Another concern is trash accumulation at the dumpsters of the businesses. Trash will smell and will attract rodents, which may then make their way into the neighborhood. This is a safety concern for children and pets. Unsupervised teens who would potentially congregate at the businesses could lead to inappropriate behavior and problems. The wildlife that has recently reappeared in this wooded area would lose their habitat. We enjoy seeing the deer wander while enjoying our backyard. It is sad that Waxhaw and Union County seems to have no concern about cutting down all of the beautiful trees in our town and in our county for more and more growth. It is surprising that a warehouse store is being considered for the development. When we first moved to Waxhaw, the town succeeded in preventing the construction of a Walmart. Does the town have a voice about whether or not to proceed with building a warehouse store in this area? In addition, the type of warehouse store would affect the type of clientele who would choose to shop there. Even with the addition of a traffic light, Providence Road traffic will continue to be a problem. This will directly affect the Camberley residents when making a left turn into the neighborhood or a left turn out of the neighborhood. Left turns into and out of the neighborhood are already a problem. Moreover, the proposed stoplight will make a total of 4 stoplights within a small span of Providence Road. The proposed light at Kingston Drive, the installed light at Prescott Village, which is not currently operational, the light at Cuthbertson and Kensington Roads, and the light at Curitan. Is this what the residents of small-town Waxhaw want to see? If the proposed development does come to fruition, and we personally hope that it does not, foot traffic between the neighborhood and development area will also be a concern unless a fence is added. We do understand that the revised plans do include a fence. This is a serious concern as our lot is adjacent to the common area on Majestic Poplar Drive. Foot traffic and littering could become a potential problem without a secure fence. Thank you for your attention to these concerns and for your consideration of them and for your protection of the residents of the Camberley subdivision.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Appreciate that. Do we have any other comments? No. Yes, sir. Your name, address, please.
Good evening. My name is Bob Alexi. I'm the owner of a parcel that is on the north side of the parcel that you looked at. I have roughly 15 acres there, and I also am speaking, I told Rayford and Nelson Cowick, who Cowick's Marine's been there forever, but they've got about 5 acres abutting this parcel as well. In general, we're okay with the development of the parcel. What we have concerns about is the connectivity to the road in Camberley, the connectivity to our parcels, and the sewer capacity for our parcels as well. So if we look at the connectivity of the roads, we look at use of the area rather than just one parcel, we would be supportive if these developments took that into account. It doesn't seem to me that they do. I would like to see that road in Camberley connected. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Alexi. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir. Your name?
My name is Tim Cornegay. I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I'm working with Bob Alexi, and I hope to work with some others nearby. A few years ago, on Bob's behalf, I met with the planning department to see what the future of Bob's property may be. They suggested it could possibly be a candidate for commercial and mixed uses. Tonight, I think I heard this proposal described as commercial and residential, but I see on the plan office and retail. Mr. Lexi's property, we'd like to be able to consider a mix of uses. In the market today, the millennials and the baby boomers that are retiring are preferring a different product that's out on the market, and I think this is a great place to be for alternative residential or other mixed uses. on Bob's property. We weren't sure if a connection over to Ski Trail would be preferred by the county. When the seller of this property that's proposed tonight began to advertise, he put out a site plan that showed a road with a light, but that road came into the property and it went all the way over to Mr. Lexi's and it went all the way over to the back of Cambridge. And that was a plan that the seller put out, the seller broker on behalf of the plan. So it is a great question to ask, do we need that connectivity over to the adjacent property that Bob has and possibly to the rear? I also met with the utilities department and asked them how our sewer would be served, and I was told that we would have to run a gravity sewer line all the way down to the creek, 1,000 to 2,000 feet away. I don't understand why this project will be allowed something different than we were told we would have to do. They are suggesting a pump station. So they would pump it away from their basin out to Providence Road down to the creek. And we strongly think that the best plan is to go gravity all the way down to the creek for this property that's being proposed tonight and for ours also. That's what they told us when we came to the utilities department a couple of years ago. So in summary, I think that connectivity is very important. At the public hearing, you heard mixed comments on whether or not the Cambridge subdivision should have a second entrance. Some people said that since it only had one entrance, the fire department and police would prefer to have a second entrance. Others said no, they didn't because they liked having one entrance so they could control it in and out. That's a decision that I think the planners need to consider very carefully. We would propose to cooperate with Bob's property to facilitate this road that connects back to Cambridge. It would require the road that is proposed tonight to go all the way through, not just not a parking lot of offices, but a real road that connects up to the light. So I heard tonight that the neighborhood across the street is having trouble getting out and they will appreciate the light. Well, possibly the people at Cambridge will do the same. They will not have a light, and so if they came in this back new way, they would be able to get out with a right turn. So it's just something to consider. So in summary, I think that we would ask you to take a good hard look at connectivity and sewer, and a plan that possibly suits the traffic, sewer, and neighborhoods a little better than this one does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any
Mr.
questions?
Knigge, can you describe where Mr. Lexi's property? We lost our.
Pull that up.
Kind of struggling to understand the value to him of the connectivity issue.
Sure.
Where's that site
Am I allowed to use the corner?
Yeah, it should be this parcel here, isn't it?
It is.
Let's pull that.
What happened to the site plan? It should have
Oh,
shown up
pull
on
that
the
up.
site plan too, where you can see it better. There you go.
I don't see the parcel.
It'd be to the left.
To the left.
It's where that
Where
pond
the hand
is.
is.
Okay, the boat place that you're familiar with is here. Ski Trail is over here.
Right.
Mr. Lexi owns this parcel on the corner, and he owns this parcel that goes all the way back to the pond and wraps around a little bit, the boat station, and goes all the way back. The Camerly Road is right here,
Right.
and there's no connection shown presently, and we think that this road could be connected through here, and also Mr. Lexi's property in the future would also connect to that road. One reason is if we came in with a proposed development, would you want us to put in a new light here? I don't imagine the DOT would want us to have a light here and another light here. So we would propose to possibly ask that connectivity come over to here, possibly in the front of the lake and behind the lake, and then we would not have to, then a light would be less important. There's a chance that these houses along Ski Trail one day would be part of a project, can't be guaranteed. So there's a chance this project, a mixed-use project, could go all the way over to Ski Trail. But right now, Mr. Alexia has this property in the corner and these properties that we're concerned about our future access and sewer. Does
So
that
you're
answer
saying
your question?
his property will join to this proposed plan right here?
Yes,
I mean,
Mr. Alexi's property starts.
His property comes all the way over to here?
Yes, sir.
And then all the way back?
Yes, sir. Starts here, it goes all the way back. It's hard for me to see exactly, but then over, down the back of these houses. He owns this corner piece, all the way back up to the boat station. So yes, Mr. Alexi owns all the way over to here. So our vision is that if there's a light and a road and need for connectivity to the neighborhood, that we ought to reserve or build a road to here. Mr. Alexi will cooperate back here on his property, even now, to allow that connection. Any questions, or did I answer your question?
You answered my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, with any other comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're, as requested by Union County, doing a sewer study, which will tell us what to do, which we're paying 100% of. With respect to connectivity, I chaired the Charlotte Planning Board for 6 years. The connectivity here is Providence Road. The neighborhood behind did not want connectivity from that point of view. Ski Trail is a high-end residential community. I have not polled them, but I can assure you they don't want commercial going down to Ski Trail. So I think the plan that we've worked out with staff and discussed with both Union County economic folks and with Waxaw represents the highest and best use for the community for the retail commercial that it needs, with the orientation out to Providence Road, which is what the state is going to be widening and what we're going to contribute to with respect to the setbacks, the turn lane, and the median. Any questions from the board with respect to that?
Any question? Okay, thank you, sir.
I
Appreciate
do
it.
agree with you that the housing values over on Ski Trail would probably not want a thoroughfare running through the beginning of their neighborhood. And I guess I still struggle with why the Alexi property would want to essentially give up a fair amount of land to have that road come through its property. I just don't see the value of it, to be quite honest with you. I think from what I'm looking at, there appears to be enough connectivity capability for additional mixed use if those property that his property is adjoining yours. I'm assuming that a fair amount of this area here is parking lot that can be adjoined to additional property. Is that not correct?
That's correct, and we agreed, if you look at the plan, to stub out, when you go behind that retail on Providence, to leave stub, you'll see on left and right to allow for that parking lot access. You'll see there's no vegetation, there's two
Right.
for future connectivity with respect to the parking lots. But I think the orientation's clearly out to Providence Road. And the residents very much did not want orientation towards the rear where their homes are.
Right, that would make sense. And it looks like you also have a stub out on the right-hand side of your
Yes.
property for,
Exactly.
is that, I'm assuming for future commercial development as well?
Correct. We were trying to be accommodative to those two parcels with exactly what you pointed out with respect to the parking lots.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Rosenberg, if you could, since you're up there, with the issue of light pollution and noise pollution, and I think more importantly, because of where the loading dock and dumpster would be for the 75,000 square foot building, I know for whatever reason garbage men usually come at 3 o'clock in the morning. Can you speak a little bit to how that buffer will mitigate, or perhaps it won't, those three issues of light, noise, and trash?
Right. Again, as Mark said from Land Design, we're going to sit 8 to 10 feet below that property level. We're going to do a landscape buffer. We're not opposed to a fence in addition to that, if the board thinks that's a good suggestion, to mitigate any impact on those homes. So between being physically below, having over about 110 feet just to the backyard, not to the house, and then having the fence and the trees, we think we've done what could be expected. But if you have other suggestions, if the board thinks there's other mitigation we could take, I mean, we'd obviously use downlighting, which is very common today. I mean, these aren't the lights of 20 years ago, the way a parking lot's lit.
And I'm just thinking over in Wesley Chapel, where the Target is located, they've got a subdivision behind that that's in fairly close proximity to
Directly, yeah, that's a good example.
the Target store. Can you give me an idea of what that distance is in comparison to what you're proposing?
You can think of that west side of that Target store, and that it's interesting. My daughter owns a home in that subdivision. I would think the backyard is actually even closer to the west side of that Target building. That can't be to that fence line any more than 70 feet,
Okay.
where we're going to be 110 feet just to the back of the property.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions for the applicant, for the board? If not, I have one comment I'd like to make. Today I received a letter that I have been asked to read, and I would like to pass this out to each one of the board members. If you go down, Brian, if you can get a copy for yourself and give the developer a copy of that, please. And if we could get a copy of this to go into the minutes, that'd be enough for that. Today, both Brian and I received this letter dated 7/11/2017 from Steve Maher, Mayor of Waxhaw. And it says, to Don Fisher, Union County Planning Board Chairman, Brian Matthews, Executive Director, Union County. July 4th holiday necessitated a reschedule of your July Planning Board meeting to Tuesday, July the 11th. Unfortunately, that conflicts with the Town of Waxhaw's regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. On behalf of the Town of Waxhaw, I ask the comments below regarding petition number 1701 be read to the Union County Planning Board and included in the minutes of your meeting this evening. On Tuesday, July 11th, the Union County Planning Board will meet to review a conditional rezoning petition number 1701 requesting a rezoning of the property located on North Carolina Highway 16. This property borders Waxhaw on multiple fronts and has its primary access points the town of Waxhaw. Back in February, the town of Waxhaw was asked by Union County to provide input on the subject plan. In reviewing the agenda packet material for July 11th Planning Board hearing, there is no mention of that input in the concerns raised by the town of Waxhaw. The town of Waxhaw raised concerns in three specific category areas. 1, zoning. Several technical concerns were raised. The main concern raised was the requested rezoning seems inconsistent with Union County zoning definition. The requested zoning by definition is to be transitional and less intense. The plan request, however, is presented with a plan that is far more intense than the county's description and most importantly, inconsistent with the area. 2, adopted plans. Waxhaw has noted that the proposed zoning is inconsistent with the 2 board-adopted Waxhaw plans of the area, our Highway 16 corridor plan and our future land use map. The inconsistency is especially noticeable and concerning where the property on the east side abuts to a major residential neighborhood in Waxhaw. Third, transportation. With the transportation issues that Western Union County is experiencing, the town of Waxhaw previously implemented a traffic impact analysis ordinance. This ordinance is designed to ensure we have a complete understanding of the full impact development has on our constrained system, with solution areas defined and funded. This petition's primary access point is Highway 16, which is within Waxhaw town limits. We requested the opportunity to review and comment on the TIA traffic study. The proposed plan makes accommodations for a traffic signal at Kensington Drive and accommodates future right-of-way needs for the DOT. There appears, however, to be very little in the way of a full traffic impact mitigation in the impacted area on Waxhaw's major artery, and there's no mention of impact on the public safety and healthcare facilities that are next to Kensington Drive. These concerns and specific technical aspects raised by staff have not been properly acknowledged and addressed at this point. On behalf of the town of Waxhaw, I respectfully request that you consider these concerns as you make your recommendation to the Union County Board of Commissioners. Signed, Steve Maher, Mayor of Waxhaw. Does anybody have any comments or concerns from the board about this letter?
Not at this time.
Not this time.
Rod, do you have any comments on it?
Yeah, well, actually, not on that, but we did realize that if the board could sort of just suspend your deliberations, we actually should have gotten you to also appoint Mr. Griffin as a regular voting member. Both Mr. Harrison and Mr. Griffin are alternates, and they would equal 7 for you. So if you could suspend your meeting for just the time being and take action to make Mr. Griffin a regular voting member.
Thank you, it's my fault.
No, that was our fault, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion to make Mr. Griffith a voting member? Robert, thank you. Second?
I'll
Thank
make
you,
the
Russell. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. We missed that one.
Well, I
So we
missed
don't
it
have
too.
comments about the letter itself. I will, of course, actually try to address some of the concerns in there. I mentioned in the beginning that we did actually err and not include the town's plans as far as what they call for in this area. They do call for what I think they name it as neighborhood retail, a very small amount of retail on the road frontage, mostly open space and some park in the rear areas, what their plan calls for. Understand, of course, that is unincorporated area. They're showing a plan for an unincorporated area. The county's plan is really sort of in between two different nodes of commercial development. We have a neighborhood center, which is very close to this area, and we have a community center very close to this area. And then in between is what we call our mixed residential. Now, the one thing about our plan is it's not parcel specific, and that's where some confusion can come in. There's a little blob on the map and it says neighborhood center, and a blob on the map and it says commercial center. That doesn't mean that the areas can't expand or contract. It really depends on what's suitable. That's just an area to say where we conceptually think things should be. So this particular piece of property is sort of in between that. It is suitable for some type of commercial development. It could also be suitable for some type of higher density residential as well. It could fit either one of those, and our plan currently calls for some level of commercial activity on that property. Now, of course, what you have here tonight for your purposes is what level would you be comfortable with. The original request for this was roughly 250,000 square feet. It's actually been reduced to just under 200. That's 199,000 square feet. It is a mix of office and retail, and so it does meet the general plan for the county. Now, you could argue, is that intensity higher in some respects? Certainly. But our plan is that. It's a guide. It doesn't mean that if the plan says 125,000 square feet is all the neighborhood center should be, it's not, it doesn't dictate that's as big or as small as it can be. That's a guide, is all it is. The staff looked at this from the perspective of what was the highest and best use on the property. As you all know, we certainly have a significant amount of a significant amount of residential development in the county. We're at 85% residential, 15% commercial. This was an opportunity to see some additional commercial tax base within the county. We understand their concerns. There will always be concerns where people live in and around property. The real discussion, I think, here is what intensity does the county and the developer and essentially the town, are they willing to accept on this property? I think everyone recognizes some commercial activity on that property is appropriate. As the developer did indicate, and I do want to point this out, there are points of connectivity here on this side here of the property, as well as points of connectivity here. Those were part of our recommendations as far as the plan goes. We felt that's important. At some point in time, we do believe that this area in here will transition to another use. As that land becomes more valuable, I don't know that necessarily the marina will be the use that stays there. It's been there a long time, but it may become more valuable and turn over into something else. When it does, that certainly could connect into there, which could provide connectivity for this adjacent property at some point in the future. Again, another item that the staff is not opposed to is the property owner and the developer negotiating among themselves for additional connectivity. We don't have a problem with that. We just don't know that we should dictate that at this point in time. That's really between those two property owners. We are saying this connectivity makes sense. This connectivity here makes sense. With respect to conditions for the development, there are some developer self-imposed conditions. Those have to do with design standards, some types of uses that are in there. But one of the conditions that the developer has agreed to, and we've made this very clear, is this particular building here, which is a 75,000 square foot building. It has to be basically a club type store. And that is because the traffic impact analysis, which was done by NCDOT, and we were a part of that, the traffic generation for that is specific to that type of use. And if you make it a grocery store or anything else, the traffic generated from those uses is significantly different. And the improvements would possibly be different. So we've made it clear that if you've designated that as a club type store, that's what it needs to be. It's a club type store. If the developer were to want to change that, he'd have to come back through this process if this is ultimately approved by the commission.
So when you say a club type store, I mean,
Costco, Sam's,
BJ's,
something that requires membership.
Does that exclude a Target?
It does.
Okay,
If it's not a membership store, it doesn't count. And the reason for that is those stores have different traffic generation patterns. So that is one of the reasons why we've made that very clear. That's a condition that we feel must be met in order for the traffic impact analysis to be accurate. Also, again, the developer is proposing to provide the right-of-way for NCDOT for the widening of 16. That is another positive. And he's also agreed to whatever the final outcome that DOT determines as far as the improvements go, that he will meet those improvements. There were several off-site improvements that NCDOT had recommended for the developer to do. That is not within the county's authority to require those off-site improvements, but NCDOT certainly can, and the developer has agreed that whatever improvements DOT indicates that he must do, he will meet those requirements per this project. I can't go into detail right now about what those improvements are or might be. Bjorn may have some answers to that, but there were some off-site improvements that they've been asked to consider as far as this goes.
Ryan, do you know if any of those comments that you just made have been communicated with the town?
As far as the information on the conditions,
The transportation,
transportation, yes. Conditions, I believe they've received a copy of our suggested conditions, but the transportation stuff has been sent to them. We're always open to input. I do want to stress that this board makes an advisory decision. There is an opportunity, obviously, for more input before it gets to the commissioners for a vote goes. So there's still opportunity before decisions made.
Given that that's gonna be a club-type store, how many parking spaces are available within that area? Because it doesn't look like it would be sufficient for like a Costco or, I know, a Costco that I go to, I can never find a parking space.
Right. Well, again, unfortunately, I can't really see the numbers on there. We have minimum standards for parking that are based on square footage and use. They have met those minimum standards based on this conceptual plan. Obviously, when it comes to full engineering, they may make some tweaks, but the overall concept is what you see, and it meets the standards of the county at this point. Based on that, the staff has given a recommendation of approval for this request with the conditions that the developer has self-imposed, as well as the conditions that we've also noted with the board. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Chairman, we have a lady that would like to ask a question.
Is there a comment or something on there to make sure that this club membership is not gonna have a gas station? Because most of these have gas stations adjacent to them for the membership members to get to the gas.
I will tell you that these buildings that are here can certainly be any use within that category. That does not restrict that. So if this were to be a club and they wanted this to be a gas station, that is certainly allowed. That is no restriction.
So none of that's been stipulated in there?
But again, our ordinance doesn't restrict them from having a gas station. So at this point in time, there is no restriction. If they
And
choose
the
it.
reason why we picked a membership club is because the traffic is due to more traffic on the weekend, less traffic during the week for a membership club building.
But generally, and I'll let our transportation manager answer it if I get it wrong, but there are standards that are within the engineering guide that say these types of uses generate these types of traffic. A lot has to do with hours of operation, types of visits, that kind of information. And generally, those types of clubs have a lower traffic volume throughout the day compared to some other types of uses. Like the grocery store has a much higher traffic volume compared to some of these other club type uses. That's why it was very clear that we had to stipulate that that be a club store. Because with the grocery store, the traffic model showed that there were significantly more impacts to the traffic lanes on that use.
Is there any of those buildings going to be a gas station for that club membership?
That's
Just like in
correct.
Matthews?
That's correct.
So when you go to Costco or Sam's in Huntsville, you can go to the store and to the gas station,
Yes, ma'am.
and there's traffic lines to get gas.
Could be, yes, ma'am. Could I, you have more questions?
No, I just, when you said that, that just in my mind, I felt like the community did not know anything in regards to what you just mentioned, because this is the last statement you made.
Right.
And it hindered the whole meeting, so the members didn't get it, the people who live there probably, I mean, John,
Well, again, I understand that this has been, there were several iterations of this plan. And when it was originally shown, it didn't show a membership.
right,
It
so
didn't.
in those other meetings, I feel like this community and all these people that live in this area, and I'm sorry, I'm not here for this one or the other one. But just listening to it, if I knew this was gonna be in my backyard with the potential of a gas station that could potentially have problems, that could have my kid, there is a waterway right there, 2 lakes it looks like. That looks extremely dangerous, problems for the city, problems for the town, problems for the city. Just looks like a bunch of problems,
Now,
unless they stipulate a gas station.
and I can, the board has the ability to do that. So, this board could make a recommendation to restrict that as a use. The developer could say, I'm fine with that, agree to that, and the county commissioners could vote when it comes time to make that a condition. At this time, that's not approved. Now, this board certainly could make that recommendation and move forward.
There's still those people, because that looks like that was completely overlooked.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And we did attend both of those community meetings, as I said earlier, and at the, second meeting, I have a picture of that same map. It does show Discount Club, and at no time were we ever made aware that that could possibly include a gas station in one of those farm properties.
Certainly, I understand. And that was not something that we discussed. I wasn't in attendance for the meeting, so I didn't get to do what was said. But again, B4, which is the classification that they're asking for, that's the general business district for us. Pretty much all the uses that are allowed in general business are allowed in B4, which a gas station is allowed in that. And that's probably why they didn't discuss specifically a gas station. It could very well be a bank, it could be a pizza restaurant, it could be a mattress store. It's speculative at this point in time. Could it be a gas station? Absolutely, unless it's made a condition. And the developer may or may not speak to that. Right now, that's not been conveyed to him as to whether or not he would restrict that. Any more questions for me?
Questions for Brian? Okay, thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. Could you address the gas station comment, please, sir?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to address the letter from Waxaw, because that totally took me by surprise. I want to make a point that the development manager for the town of Waxaw, I believe it's Dennis Rory, has been on every conference call with DOT, has been provided every copy of the TIA, and been involved in every discussion. And I feel compelled to make this other point because I'm astounded with that letter, but the town manager for Waxaw in February called me to a meeting in his office where proposed whatever density the county approved, they would give higher density if I would agree to a voluntary annexation into the town of Waxaw. So you might understand why I'm a little shocked.
You also know that that manager is no longer in Waxaw,
I do.
of his own choosing.
I don't know
Okay.
anything about
Have you met with the new manager?
I have. I met with the new manager as well.
Okay.
With respect to the zoning, when we first proposed this last August, we've been on this quite a while, the zoning proposed by the staff was B4CZ, whatever that allows within the zoning. In no way are we trying to mislead the public. We've been very clear with what that zoning is. That's been in all the letters, been available at the public meeting as what the zoning was to that. As you people know, any use at all is going to take a specific site plan with respect to the creek, to environmental issues with respect to how the state's involved with any uses with respect to gas. They're incredibly restrictive. So I don't see that as an issue endangering the people, the homes, or the creek. All we know is that we're making an application for a B4CZ as recommended by staff, and we're happy with that recommendation, and we'd ask that whatever you decide, we're happy with.
I would think that you may want to possibly, if you've got direct concerns about this letter, because if you notice what time it was written this morning, sent, okay, 5:52 a.m. I woke up to this letter. I had no idea or anything like that. Most likely Brian didn't have any idea either.
And I had no idea.
And I understand.
And I think I've had 3 or 4 physical meetings with the town. I've had several phone calls with some of the council members, and I'm astounded by this. But I will tomorrow morning call the mayor and request a meeting.
Okay. I think that would probably be good. You know, I'm the messenger because he would have been here tonight, probably with some board members. But you understand, he clarified it in this, and I apologize that he's not here. Okay?
I have one question for you, Mr. Rosenberg. would you consider, instead of a single 75,000 square foot building, making two smaller buildings, or would that significantly impact your vision for this plan?
I would be afraid that would impact potential use, but again, I want to be very clear. We don't know, and any site plan's going to require, and Brian can give more detail, or Dick, I mean, that site plan has to be approved as well. So I don't know what we're going to end up with, but as Bjorn said, the traffic, we reduced the traffic by going to this club format substantially to try to mitigate that impact. So it's us, you know, when a use comes, you know, people who are making this size of investment determine that, I don't mean us, I mean the user, that's what the community needs. They do incredible studies to determine that. When we met with your economic development group, they made this point about how under-retailed the county is and the need to increase the retail tax base. And in particular, how under-retailed Waxhaw was for the population base and the demographic that's there. So we're responding to a need. We're not pioneers. Pioneers get arrows in their back and die. And after 35 years, I haven't died. I'm still here. I got some arrows, I can tell you. But, you know, we go with what is required by the community as a service that they need.
Well, and as a resident of Waxhaw, believe me, it would be a much shorter commute for me personally to go downtown Waxhaw for club type shopping. So I'm just kind of weighing different options and different possibilities. You know, wearing different hats. One is a resident and another is a board member. But I just wanted to ask that question to see kind of where you were in that. And Brian, I guess the question I have for you is the 75,000 square foot size, would that be a maximum?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they could choose to go smaller if a smaller tenant were to come available, but they can't go any larger than 75,000 under this zoning.
Building, that's correct. Now, understand the whole site is 199,000 square feet, but that particular building is maximum 75,000.
You're making me think of something with respect to store size. Store size is growing. This will be a small format club, not a large. A large one's 120,000. All the new grocery stores are 50 to 75,000. The new stores that are coming in, some of them are as large as 120,000 square foot, just for one grocery store. So we've gone with the smallest footprint that we think would be acceptable to a user for that type of use.
Well, that was kind of the other thing that was going through the back of my head is the Costco, for example, in Matthews, is significantly larger than 70,000 square feet, having walked it many times. So I was just kind of curious as to how the club format store came about, because it just seems like it'd be a very small club.
It's exactly what it is. It's a small club format. And the parking, if I can clarify that for you, the zoning requirements are 180 spaces. We have 302 spaces.
302, okay. Thank you.
How many spaces, sir?
302, sir.
Now, is that total for the plan, or is that within that little
That's
section?
just for the club.
Just for the club?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, appreciate it. I think we've had a good discussion on all of this from all sides. We've heard a lot of comments tonight. Is there a motion to take action? What is the?
I'll go. I would actually like to make a motion that we approve this plan with the stipulation that there be no gas station attached to the club, and that there be a physical fence as a border between this property and the subdivision to the east.
Okay. I'd also like to add, Brian, if I could, that I think it would be wise if the developer did meet with the mayor to resolve any concerns, et cetera. And if that's done, along with Robert's. Because I think we need to keep harmonious relationships here, regardless of where it is, and what town, et cetera. Donut hole, no donut hole. We need to all work together for the betterment of the county. And I can certainly tell you that your comment about economic development is right. There's the leakage factor out of Waxhaw is astronomical. And we can use more in the county, right, Brian? For that tax base. So we have a motion by Robert, the stipulations and the stipulation of myself. Can we call for a vote now? Is everybody ready?
Can I clarify that that also includes the conditions self-imposed by the developer and the ones from the staff as well?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Thought that was a given.
I just want to make sure.
Okay. So do we have a second to?
I'll second.
You second it? Thank you. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I'd like to discuss before we vote.
Okay, excuse me.
My concern is twofold, and I understand folks in Waxhaw have a heck of a time getting to stores and getting out of Waxhaw, going anywhere out of Waxhaw or getting into Waxhaw. And that's one of my concerns, is that this application is coming at a time that the infrastructure is really not going to sustain what it has at this point. Now, maybe once everything is expanded, it might fit in nicely to this area. And if Waxhaw is appeased or the board is appeased. But my concern is now you're going to flood out 6 to 10 cars on each light change back onto that road. I mean, it seems to me that we're going to be creating a lot more traffic volume in an already really congested area by approving this at this time. I'm not to say that this application at some other point in time might not be appropriate, but I just think at this point in time, I have an issue with the traffic flow. I also have an issue with the B4 designation. That's the widest designation you can get in your general business district. I mean, that they don't technically have to build a small club store. They can build.
That is one of the conditions.
No, that's one of
That
the-
is one of the conditions, that it has to be
a club store.
That is correct. So now the other uses do fall within whatever the B4 category is, unless, of course, that condition with the gas station is.
Brian, I would say that part of the overall mix of uses that includes the discount club, it wasn't because we were hell-bent to get the discount club, because that was the mix of uses that was proposed in the TIA. The TIA drives the mix of uses, and more importantly, the overall number of trips that are generated by the sites. You could have some mix and matching, maybe a Costco equals 2 CVS's, for example, or not Costco, I'm sorry, a Chick-fil-A equals 2 CVS's or something like that, so long as the number of trips and the number of square feet overall within that range is upheld.
Was there any other districts in the B districts that were considered or that could work?
I think because of the types of uses that they were looking for, B4 is the zoning classification that better fit what they were looking for. B2 is the next one, but it is much more restricted compared to the uses for that.
And so I guess my opinion at this point is that this application still has some holes in it. You obviously got some issues with the neighboring jurisdiction. The sewer and water studies, haven't come back yet, I don't imagine. Is that right?
But the developer is actually working with the county as far as the sewer on the property. Now, the adjacent property, I'm gonna mention the issue with sewer. Understand, it's not our responsibility to make sure adjacent properties are served with sewer at a less expensive cost. That's not our
Oh, I
responsibility.
get that.
Our responsibility is to make sure that the developments being proposed meets those requirements. Developer is working with the county on that. He's not required to have his sewer permit at this point in time. That comes when he actually does his full engineering plans. There is capacity. That's what we're told from our Public Works Department, and it can be served. It doesn't mean he is being served, just means he can be served.
Well, I think I've said my piece. I think that the application is just, while it might be a good business strategy for Waxhaw, I don't think the timing is good with.
And I certainly understand those concerns, because traffic certainly is an issue on Providence Road. But I think when you look at the picture of the fact that we are losing retail, we are grossly underserved from a retail capacity, and being that we are limiting this application to a club-type store, I think that whether it's 18 months down the road or 7 years down the road, I think that the value to the community would be well served. And I think that if we can address the issues of our neighbors to the east, which there appears to be some adequate remedies for light, noise, and trash, and certainly with regard to teens being loitering around the neighborhood, around the back area, I don't see that as a huge concern, but certainly a physical fence would prevent them from loitering back there. And I would expect that the business owners would also make sure that they are not hanging around the back of their premises, especially late at night.
Did your stipulation include the gas station too?
No gas station stipulated.
Okay. We've had a motion. Robert, do you still want the motion in play?
Motion is in play, and I think
Second,
Russell seconded.
call the question.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
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 I believe the ayes have it. Okay. Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you all. If you need to leave, go ahead. Next.
We
just want-
did it to pull up
Yeah, okay. We'll take a short recess here while we're getting some information ready to go.
Dick. Hey, Dick.
Yeah. Patrick, how did you vote?
I'm sorry?
How did you vote?
Yeah. So it was,
You voted no?
It was
How did
4-2.
You voted no?
oh, you voted no?
How
So
did
it's-
Charlie vote?
You said yes.
So no's had it.
Well, we had a 3-3, I think.
No, it's 1, 2, 3, 1. Yeah, it's 3-3.
3-3. That's what the vote was.
I thought you voted against it.
No.
You voted against it.
I voted against it.
Oh.
No, I voted
Yeah.
no, yes,
Oh.
no, yes,
Yes.
yes.
I thought there were two. I only saw, oh, Dawn, I did not see you raise your hand.
No, I voted no.
You got a,
We got a hung jury.
oh, okay. I did not see that. Dawn, I didn't see you raise your hand no, so.
I'm sorry, yeah.
My apologies.
want to tell them before they walk out.
I gotta be upfront, I said no,
You got
I
a
did not.
split decision, so.
Do what?
You got a split decision. I didn't realize you had a
Right.
split decision on that one. Well, I'll go to the board with a split decision then.
Okay.
So you said yes had it. I kind of looked at him and no, I guess you guys voted.
Well, I asked him if the yeses had it, cause he was, look, I couldn't see down the way, so.
I was going to ask you which way, because I thought. Well, I knew. Well, I kind of figured Russell would vote yes as he seconded the motion.
I didn't say yes, I voted for it.
Somebody want to inform Steve and his crew?
I think he's gonna take it as a split decision.
I think, huh?
Brian's gonna contact him.
I'm sorry, guys, we just had technical
Still standing
difficulties
outside.
all morning long. Okay. Okay, the second, item you have on your agenda tonight is a request for a conditional, rezoning petition number 17-04. This is a request to, rezone a piece of property from RA 40 to, B4 conditional zoning, specifically for a, automotive repair facility. This is located on 2.082 acres. The property owner is here. I'm probably gonna do most of the talking. This is more of a mom and pop operation, so I'm really gonna probably do most of the talking, let them answer questions for you and certainly speak if they want to, but I'm kind of doing the presentation here for you. What you have here behind you, and I'm sorry it's not on your screen, but you've got a picture of the parcel that we're talking about here. The property owner, he actually owns this piece as well as this piece. This parcel here is currently already zoned B4. It already has a business classification zoning for it. However, there are some constraints with the property. I think it is having issues with environmental health as far as parking goes. This particular piece of property has, I think it's been removed. It had a mobile home on the property. It had a functioning well and septic system, but the mobile home has been removed. And so what the property owner wants to do is essentially combine these two pieces here and operate his business on the two properties and utilize the system for the septic system. Is it county water or is it a well? It's county water. Okay, so utilize the county water as well as the septic system to service the actual business, which will, again, is an automotive repair business. In the area, there is, and I'll try to pull this up if I can get this to move here. At the corner is already some commercial zoning. You can see this is property which is zoned commercial. This is not at this time. This property here is zoned commercial. This property here on this corner is zoned commercial. There is some commercial within the area. The plan sort of dictates that, you know, this is a node, but as I said in the previous application that we had, those nodes are not meant to be property specific. They're just a point. They can expand or contract as appropriate as we go. The property owner did hold a community meeting. There were some concerns that were brought up by the adjacent property owners. I think there are some people here tonight who'd like to speak to that, and obviously they'll address their concerns with you. This was small enough, it did not require any type of a traffic impact analysis. Our transportation planner, Bjorn, had to go, but he did look at this. Essentially, it's a small use, a small impact as far as traffic goes. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. This is what we call a site-specific development-specific plan. So while the designation is CZB4, it is specifically for an automotive repair facility. If he were to discontinue that use, he can't come back in and put some other type of B4 use there. It is specifically for that use. So I know there's some concerns sometimes about the types of uses that can be allowed in that. It is specifically for that use.
It looks like there's already buildings there. Is the plan to demolish those buildings? and put up
That
new-
actual building has already been demolished. This was a mobile home. It's already been demolished. This building may still be there. It may, and they may want to utilize that. It's I believe, an accessory building, and they may utilize that for the actual business when they put that in place.
So the proposal is to put up about what? I can't read that.
80
How
by
large?
90.
80,000 square foot, or I'm sorry?
80 by 90.
80 by 90, okay.
Yeah,
The 7,200 square foot building.
7,200 square foot.
And what, as far as storage of chemicals, things like that, what would typically be stored in or around that building?
Yes, sir. What we do, actually have a bit. Yes. Jeff Hudspeth. I live on Sincerity Road, which is right off 200, which is approximately about 5 miles away from the location on 218. We
And
do
I'm sorry,
have
your name, give me your name one more time.
Jeff Hudspeth. And can you repeat your question one more time, please?
I was just curious as to what types of chemicals might be stored in or around that building, on that property?
Yes, sir. We, the only main chemical that we use, which is brought in by, is Haltech, which is a oil company around here. When we do oil changes and everything, they provide the big containers and everything. They're sealed and everything. Everything else as far as transmission fluid, brake fluid is brought in as needed as the jobs are performed there and everything. But that's the main source of anything right there as far as fluid wise.
And there'd be no
Yes.
gas or?
No gas or anything like that. As far as oil level, the oil and everything, we do have a disposable tank, which we have, it's Palmetto Recycling, actually comes to do our business now. They do recycling. They actually have a holding tank that we put the old oil in, which is certified, everything from DHEC, all that, and also the main one that we fill up as far as the new oil.
Is that an above-ground tank or below ground?
Yes, sir, above ground tanks, yes, sir. And if I can add something to it, the building, it's an 80 by 90. We will be paving the whole front as far as there's 2 driveways. If I can show you right here, there's one right here and one right there. Those are going to be extended out the length of approximately at least 30 foot on each one. So you're not actually having to come to a dead stop. You can veer off into the property and everything. Also over here, when we're planning on doing the building on these 2 pieces of property right here, we know there's tree line. We plan on putting a privacy fence back here and behind towards the whole building, around the whole property except for the front right there. So if we have to store a car overnight, or we have to have some kind of parts or oil tanks or anything, that's not going to be seen at all. And everything's going to be as far as trees, shrubs, all the way up to the county specs.
Who is your closest neighbor? Is it looks like across the street there?
Across the street, yes.
Yeah, it's, can we make that go away? Okay, it's,
Yeah, that's that house, I think, across the street.
Yeah.
Would probably be the closest, structure, if I'm not mistaken, as far as residential goes.
Yes.
And do they have, would there be a line of sight from their home to your building, your facility?
yes, there are actually a line of sight's gonna be, from right there. Of course, the building's gonna be right over here itself.
Right.
So there's gonna be some difference, but all that right there is still wooded area.
Okay. It looks like there's tree lines coming up to that corner. I'm just wondering if your building is far over enough, they really shouldn't see much.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying there's tree line all back through here, over on the right side. And if I'm not mistaken, in some of this land over here, before commercial as well. I know we only concentrate on the right side, but
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up so you can see what the notification is.
While we're pulling it up, just to let you know, since you're asking about the houses and the roads, that road in 218 has become dramatically dangerous. We can't even check on
Time out, we haven't called for public comments yet, please. That's all right, you can come up when we're ready, we need to hear this right here, please.
So what you, as we were indicating, everything there in the red is already zoned commercial. That there on the corner actually has a light industrial zoning for that. The property behind it is still zoned RA40 or agricultural. The property on this corner is still zoned B4. So this is zoned residential agricultural at this point. Everything sort of in this area is. Commercial is in this area here and across the corner at this point in time. Any more questions about that? Do you want to see the aerial again?
Please.
Okay.
While he's doing that, how many bays are you?
We're gonna have 4 bays. They're gonna be, it's an 80 by 90, so we're gonna have 4 bays on the front. And then we're also gonna have a waiting room, which is on the building itself for the customers and everything.
Okay. And it'll be serviced by septic?
What's that?
It's gonna be serviced by septic?
Yes, sir. The, one of the mobile home was, as you can see, the big rectangle deal right there.
Mhm.
That's what we're gonna be using the system on. We did already call and get DHEC out there to look at it, service it, make sure everything's fine, and we already got their approval. I'm not sure if we get their letter of intent, we get emails and stuff, but they actually went out there, put Dye in the system, make sure everything was good, went on their approval before we wanted to come here.
What are your planned hours of operation?
It's gonna be Monday through Friday, from 8 to 6, and then occasionally Saturdays from 8 to 1.
And I'm sorry, I'm just firing off these questions, but
No.
how many employees do you intend?
3 can count myself. And we're gonna be doing small work, which is gonna be, consist of, engine tune-ups, inspections, we do alignment. We won't be messing with any kind of tires or anything like that. Pretty much just basic stuff is what we're gonna be doing, pretty much.
You have an existing business now,
I do.
and that is where?
Yes, sir. It's in, South Carolina, and Lancaster, South Carolina, off 200.
Why do you want to move here?
Sir?
Why do you want to move here?
Actually, well, my fiance, I met her. She's from here. I travel every day. My kids and everything actually live in Lancaster, so I'm between there and there. And like I said, we're planning on getting married, me residing here full time, and I'd just like to bring something to the community over there.
How tall are you proposing this building to be, height-wise?
The doors itself are gonna be, the highest is gonna be 12 foot as far as the bay door itself. So 16 to 18 foot total. It's gonna be the height of it. And I did want to recognize is also the building, it will have a brick front on it, presentable for the county specs as well.
So basically a steel building with a brick
It's a
front?
steel building, and it will have brick as far as what you can see on the road itself. It will have brick.
You had mentioned a privacy fence.
Yes, sir.
Is that on this request here? I didn't see it on the request, right?
Brian, do you have that site plan?
We do not, ma'am.
I do have.
I didn't have it, did it before. Pass that around. Well, we have it in paper form.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, everybody, you got it?
We've got
Yeah, but it doesn't show a fence.
Oh, it doesn't show the fence.
No.
It does not, my name is Jenny Jenkins, I'm a real estate broker here in the county. Carol Rushin provided this, site plan here, and even though it doesn't show up on here, that would definitely be something that we would do. To whatever the county says that we need to do to make this happen, you know, requirement of a fence, that would be perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
You said you don't do tires.
No, sir. No, sir.
Would you ever upgrade? your business?
No, sir. Honestly, I've been doing this for over 10 years now at my own place now, and I don't mess with any tires. I mainly just do small stuff, engine repairs and stuff like that. Yes, sir.
Isn't there a tire store 600 feet away from your property?
A car store?
A tire store.
A tire store, yes, sir, it sure is. It's actually one right over here in the corner, which is across the way, right across from I guess that's the building, what they call the auction right there. Yes, I am aware of that. And that's what he mainly does, you can see, is tires. You know, he may do other things, of course, but tires is his main project. I'm not wanting to come in here and cause any problems or anything. I just wanted to come here and pretty much do inspections, oil changes, that kind of work on there.
Okay.
What about lighting as far as
Yes.
outside lighting for the building, for
Yes,
the
sir.
property?
I would like to require at least one downlight, just for security reasons, whether it's on the side or in the back itself. I know in the wooded area, being back there where the privacy fence is going to be, which is going to be right over here. It's really not going to have much light there, so I would, if any way possible, ask for a downlight right there, please. As far as any other lighting, there might be one outside the building itself. And then, of course, our sign, which is going to be a brick input sign on the very front of the road. I'm not going to have any lighting on it itself.
Question.
Yes, sir.
You won't be working on any type of heavy-duty truck or anything like
No,
that?
sir. We'll be doing compact and sedans, small trucks, 1500s, nothing as far as diesel work or anything like that. No, sir. Pretty much nothing over 4,000 pounds or anything like that.
What is the possibility of you letting this turn into, and I've seen this at several shops, they've got probably more cars there that aren't running, and they've been sitting there for 3, 4, and 5 months.
Exactly. And
You gonna have anything like that happen?
yes, sir, I sure have. And what we do is I've had numerous of those. What we take place in South Carolina is if a car's been sitting there more than 30 days, we turn it into an auction car. We have to go to the courthouse, turn it in, or we get rid of it, one of the two. I will have a policy there. Anything over 60 days will be off my lot. You know, I do have agreements and that set up, which I do that. But we go by appointments a lot. So we're going to control what's coming in there and what's coming out. If we know we have 2 or 3 big jobs, and I'm not going to get to you on there, I'm not going to make your car sit right there. You know, I expect a clean sanitation, my area itself. No cars out front, no junk stuff. If anything needs to be put up, it's going to be either in the shop or it's going to be out back in the confined fence right there.
Are you gonna have wreckers or
No,
tow
sir.
trailers?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
Vehicles or anything like that?
No, sir. Nothing that has to do with towing or anything like that. No, sir.
Any underground tanks?
No, sir. Not at all. Everything's above ground. The posts that we use are actually 2 posts, which are up to 10,000 pounds up there that we feel comfortable that we use at Mother Shop. So nothing's going to be in the ground. There's not going to be any pits or anything like that.
Did you say the maximum height of your roll-up doors on your shop are going to be 12 feet?
Yeah, they're going to be 10 by 12s.
10 feet wide and 12 feet tall? Or
Yes,
12
sir.
feet tall?
Yeah, 10 foot wide, 12 feet tall. They will be the nice professional doors, nothing like no metal, anything like that. They'll be
12 foot wide, or 12 foot high door, you can't get a semi in.
Yeah, exactly.
Stacks of a semi inside.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
What about the signage on your building? What will it be composed of?
The signage on the building itself, as far as the front building or just the main sign that's near the road?
The main sign near the road.
Main
What's it-
sign near the road. I plan on getting it professionally bricked up, get it professionally signed with no lights in it, and up to the county's specs of what it needs to be. I'm not going to throw a 4x4 with a piece of plywood or something on there. No, sir. I'm going to make it whatever's presentable as far as a professional place, and that's going to be with the county ordinance and everything.
We have pretty good regulations on that, Brian. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That'll be the only sign? You won't have anything on the
Yes, sir,
building?
that'll be the only sign. I do have to ask one thing. I'm not sure about, or Brian with the ordinance and everything. At my other shop on the outside, we have, in each bay, you've got 4 bays. And you might have an oil change or alignment. That way a customer knows where to go. That may be, unless the county is suspected on something like that, but no more than 4, which are 1 per bay, and that would be it.
We call those wall signs. He is allowed to have a wall sign, if approved, he's allowed to have a wall sign as well as a advertising sign, for the outside.
And your intention is to keep the other outbuilding that's there? Will that be used for storage, or will that?
Yes, the building that's right there, it will be eventually used for storage and everything as far as office files, that et cetera kind of stuff that we'll be using out of this business itself. I know these are other, looks like little things, but that's gone. There's one little shed type building right there that's been there forever. I'm not sure if that's gonna make any difference or not, but all this right here is cleared off. We've got 1 tree right there that will be coming down, but besides that, all that's already gone.
So you said all the driveway area will be asphalt. What about are you going to do any sort of sod or grass or anything in the rest of the area?
Yes,
Or would that
yes,
be
yes.
landscape?
So the front part right here, so we see, we got our 2 main driveways right here, and those are gonna be approximately 30 foot right there, so we have plenty of driveway. And the first, we're gonna make like a U right there with some sod and some grass where we're gonna put the sign at. And then everything else that you see all the way connected to the building itself will be paved. We'll have markers up for a handicap, approximately so many spaces right there. And then on the back, we'll have additional parking itself for the cars that are gonna keep overnight.
Then the remainder of that will just be left as is?
Yes, more than likely what's gonna happen is there gonna probably end up being a possibility, a privacy fence or something right there. Maybe in the future, not anything like right now.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant?
The width of your driveway entrances, again, please?
30 foot each.
30 feet.
30 feet each. Now, if the DOT, I know we talked to them before, if they'll let me go any wider, that's my intent, is to go wider for it, so people can actually veer off and everything or use it for something. But my intent, we're at least right now 30 feet per drive.
You said this is gonna be like appointment only type of?
No, we do accept walk-ins, but mainly walk-ins are gonna be oil changes, something that approximately takes between 15 and 20 minutes tops, inspections and half hour or less on there. Any kind of big work that's gonna take more than 3, 4, 5 hours up to 1 day will be scheduled in as an appointment.
So you'll have a waiting area?
That's
People
correct. We will have a waiting area up there. It's gonna approximately be, it's approximately about a 20 by 20 waiting room area. I will have 1 restroom in there, as far as, because it's only gonna be 3 employees, the restrooms, but yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Do we have any public comments? Anybody from the audience who wants to say anything? Come on up. State your name and your address, please.
Sure. Lillian Melamides. My address is 3339 East Highway 218. I live across the road and set a little bit back from there. I actually share a driveway with this gentleman here.
My name is Roger Melton, lifelong resident, Union County. I've been living there since '83.
And I've been there since 2014.
We'll show you our homes and everything when we get to
Yeah, so I prepared a statement, and Roger, I'm sure, will expand on my statement itself. But as I mentioned, I've been a Union County resident since 2014. When we originally were looking for a home, a lot of what we loved about the area was the fact that it was so rural. You know, we wanted to be outside of the city, we wanted to be away from commercial buildings and things of that nature, and we really felt like that's what we have, and we still do. When we get to the very end of our drive, about ready to turn onto 218 in either direction, we look out, we see farmland, we see houses dotted. You know, it's a really great experience and you know, a lovely area. So, you know, I mean, my concerns really aren't limited to the potential, you know, unsightly fence or cars sitting out there. I should add, though, there is currently a portion, like the little triangle up top over here, has had cars for sale for the last month and a half there. In particular, there is a red truck that has been sitting there for over a month with a for sale sign on it. Additionally, I'm kind of going off script here. This building right here currently has a for rent sign in front of it as well. This one right here.
Rental for years.
It has been a rental for years. So I don't know what the intentions are there, but I did want to ensure that that was disclosed. So with this particular shop, you know, my biggest concern, well, one of my biggest concerns is traffic. With respect to what they said about the minimal traffic impact, I'm sure some of you may be familiar with the area, but essentially on Highway 218, up over here, where you see, so this is where our mailboxes sit over here. This is our road to our house. You come up 218 over here, coming from Brief Road. It dips down, then it comes up. It's a pretty, you know, big hill, so your line of sight is very limited.
That
When
is
I,
the peak.
Right, when I go to make a left turn onto my driveway, I have been so close to being rear-ended so many times. It's unbelievable. Even signaling well in advance, you frequently see cars zooming in either direction, passing each other on double yellow. That's happened several times, even just in the last couple of weeks. The other thing that happens too is when it ices, that road over here, this hill, is just steep. So you have big trucks that come through 218 all the time, in either direction, and they're just plowing. I mean, they're going well over 55 miles per hour. So when you come up over this hill, again, your line of sight is limited when you're going from west to east. You then dip down to the very bottom, and this over here, where they're proposing to put their shop, is the very bottom of that hill. You then go up another hill over here, and that's where you get to Love Mill. So as you're, right, Crossroads. So as you would potentially be exiting or entering this particular facility, you would have to slam on your brakes or slow down. If someone is tailgating you, which they do on 218, it's inevitable. There's the potential for a major wreck, especially going down a hill on either direction. Or if you are leaving your line of sight, you don't have a line of sight looking to the left, exiting that building. There is no line of sight. I would encourage anyone that disputes that to come out and stand there with me, right next to me, or right next to Roger, or my husband, or anyone else, and actually take a look for themselves, and you will see there's no line of sight whatsoever. Another piece of information for you too, and this is just a personal anecdote. My husband, shortly after we moved in, was out there getting his mail. You know, he stopped one afternoon after he got home from work, was pulled into this little area over here, which is the top of their shop, reached over to open the mailbox, and he just felt this buzz and just this shake. There was a woman that was driving down 218 that didn't see, she saw him stopped, but she misjudged where he was and slammed on her brakes. Another vehicle creamed into the back of her. It was a big Dodge pickup truck. What ended up happening with those vehicles is it sent her car flying down, and it came down so far that if they had put a sign over here, or that brick, you know, whatever, they would have knocked it out. she probably would have perished. So, you know, those are just a couple of concerns that I personally have. The other item, we have 5 auto repair shops within a 5-mile radius that I counted personally. I have a list of the auto repair shops within the 5-mile radius. They all do, you know, basic repairs, oil changes, you know, engine work. Tim's Tire, which is 600 feet that someone mentioned, they do tune-ups. They do oil changes. They do transmissions. They do inspections. They do all of those things. They also service heavy farm equipment, but they go out to the sites to service heavy farm equipment. So, you know, I truly feel like in this particular area we are oversaturated as far as, you know, needing additional auto repair shops. 2 miles down the road in one direction, so going towards the east, you have Smith's Auto Repair. There's Wayne's Transmission, which is pretty much behind where their building would be erected. Baucham's, which is, you know, another 2 miles down to the east. So, again, those are some of my concerns. Roger, did you want to expand on anything else?
All right, guys, y'all ready to get started? All right, you know how to work this thing?
Yeah, sure.
All right, go over to Love Mill Road at the intersection. Now, come back towards me down Love Mill Road, right there, right there. Okay, Anthony Tomberlin lives right here. Now, you gotta come on back down a little bit here. Come on, a little bit.
Oh, down here. Down here?
Yeah, right.
Where? Here, I got it right here.
Right there.
Okay, yes, they're right here.
That's Anthony?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is a water, it's not much bigger than a 5-gallon bucket, but I don't know how much further back it goes, but that's where it starts right there. Waterway crosses Love Mill Road. Can I give this to one of y'all over there, and they can pass it around and show, you got enough of them? So easier. Here you go. It's easier for me to show you on here, and you can just follow with me. We'll start with this one with Love Mill Road on it. I didn't have
The second page.
I didn't have a fluorescent, so I just took dots and dotted. But there's a branch, and I call it a branch, about 5-gallon bucket wide. Starts right there, goes across Love Mill Road, goes right by Jason Henson's house, comes in the back, and it's kind of swampy through there, and comes in from the back of the pond. All right, keep going up to where there you go, stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you see where that line of the corner is right there? You can see where the numbers are, the 803, 6025. That's where they filled in the pond. There was a ditch that runs right by that pond. I used to fish in the pond all the time. They filled the pond in there. But that is the bottom of the lowland there, and water runs from each hill straight down to the bottom, goes under the culvert, goes across the road. Now you can see a line across the road, how a line of trees, thick trees right here.
Or which one?
Yeah, just straight across the road. Now we're going on to the next page, and it crosses the road. That red dots on that page, come on up and show the pond.
Right here.
All right. The creek runs right through there. Now, right through there is, back about 100 years ago, that's where everybody, Mr. Rasmus Green told me, everybody got their water from there. Underground aquifer there with springhead everywhere. I got about 4 on the back of my property. I own that land right beside Jesse, Postockwea. This little house right here, right straight across from the corner where our mailboxes was. Come on up, Michelle. That's just not that. That's Jesse Baldwin's house.
This area?
That is the trailer.
Okay, all right, so
All right,
that's,
there's
there
my
we go.
pond, there's my pond. All right, at the back of the pond, I've got about 4 spring heads. That branch runs, and what happens is them spring heads pop up from all this water that runs down in that area, shoots under the tile, and it gets about that wide down through there. But when it opens up to about 6 or 8 feet. I've got a 10-acre pasture, that pond's in it. I got about 6 Black Angus cows in there, and it runs the creek all the way back. Now you can go into the back, all the way back. Now there's where the driveway comes around. The branch runs all the way around behind that. And Lily lives up there on the left at the top of the hill. But the branch goes by me, 10 acres of pasture where my cows drink out of, all the way past them at the back.
Hey, can I stop you for 1 second?
Yes.
I'm not understanding what this has to do with the application.
Because if you park a bunch of cars there, you've got oil leaks, transmission fluid leaks, brake fluid leaks. You've got everything that's gonna wash right down the culvert, go down here where my cows are drinking out of it, right into the water system where all the spring is. When the water goes down, the water comes up. That pond, we live in northern Union County, we live on the rock, cracks. Pond leaks a little bit, so I know it's going down in the aquifer. So I put a well out there and I got me a little man peeing into my pond to keep my pond full most of the time because the water's seeping down. But that is where the spring heads start, right where he's wanting to put this thing. And that is soaking wet all the time. It's pretty much just swamped. And I thought I was having a problem because I was getting a little bit of suds in the branch from that trailer and that rental house, both on the same septic, running down there. About 6 months ago, they run a line down to the culvert thing. And I'm like, how can that happen? So that needs to be investigated into. But I want to find out if they, any way possible, that I'm going to contaminate my branch, my cows, and we've all got animals living up through there. They raise bees out there.
Yeah, we have honeybees. I have an orchard. We have chickens. We have dogs. You know, I mean, just it's.
Now go back to the corner again. I'd like to show them this too.
The corner of.
Crossroads.
Oh yes.
All right, you see what she's pointing at right there? That is gonna be our new Salem Fire Department. That whole lot, all the way down, is gonna be a new fire department. So already we're gonna have stopping traffic. Something's gonna have to be done at the stoplight. I've seen numerous deaths. In fact, the culvert I've been talking about, I've seen a little girl, 14 years old, get run over walking down the store. So it's terrible. We have to wait 30 and 40 cars now till we get out of our driveway.
Right.
That is how bad. And I don't think the new
overpass
is gonna help at all, because we are now from Mint Hill to Pocono, we're wide open right away. When they hit the top of that hill, gun down to the bottom.
And there's a traffic light or just
It's
four-way
a
stop?
sign.
It's
Four-way stop.
It's
No,
it's 2-way.
218
Two-way
is
stop.
open right now. Love Hill Road is the stop sign. But and Tim, I talked to Rodney Gordon. Rodney is gonna sell Tim that whole corner right there, so Tim will be upgrading his whole place.
Tim's Tiger.
So that's what I'm saying, there's no need for, and I thank the Lord for Beth, and I hardly know Jeff here, and I feel for him, and
Right.
went to school with Jenny, but, and have nothing against him. I mean,
No.
I'm for everybody having a business. I've had good business and I've had business fail. But for what that is, that's not the place for it, that's a swamp area. And they've done it all dirty and filled up the ditch where the water was draining into the culvert. And so if you level that off, I just don't see where it's ever gonna be able to handle the toxins that are gonna come down, and it's gonna come when it rains. You know, we've been having some torrentials. Everything that they've got's gonna wash right on me and right on my land.
I mean, you can.
And I can go ahead and get the water sample now, and if my water comes back, and it's got gas, oil, anything in it, and I know where it's coming from, there's gonna be a heck of a lawsuit coming out.
Well, I mean, I think a point is, you know, there was a comment about only bringing transmission fluid in when you need, and, you know, storing oil and such waste in an above-ground tank. I've been around cars for a long time. My husband was in NASCAR for 26 years, so that's all he did. That's all he knows is cars. it happens, especially when you have broken down vehicles. I mean, it's just inevitable. Something spills and you don't mean for it to happen, but it happens. In this particular area, it's much more impactful versus if it happens in an area where, you know, you're not sitting.
Take this back over to my.
Back to your
house
land?
right here.
Sure.
Come on back over to the left. Start at the road at the driveway.
Okay. Right here?
All right, right there. Now, this is my road to my house. I own that property right there, and it comes straight across from where there, you see, I put the mailboxes off the road so we can get our complete cars off the road. Well, if they get that rezoned right there, and Mike's already parking trucks and they're there, how do I know that whole line? And there, that little piece right there where it says the woods are constrained, there's about 30, 40 yards there from the road to them trees, where you can put anything you want to all the way down, up and down that road.
And they have been
Right in
using
front of my house
as a
there.
used car lot.
And I own a rental trailer behind it, and then I've got my house back there with the pond about 300 yards back. But every bit of that from right there down, it is harder on me, worse on me than it is anybody, because I'm getting the brunt of it.
Okay, I think we've get the point,
Thanks, guys.
okay?
I got a question for you. When you pick up your mail, how do you get back across the street if you're in your car?
You sat there for a
No,
long
no,
time.
well, what I do.
You pull a
what I
U-turn
personally
on
do-
218?
No, what I personally do is, so I pull in, going, you know, east, right, so I'm traveling east. I pull in over here. Obviously, if I'm by myself, I have to exit my vehicle very carefully to be sure that there aren't cars coming in either direction. Because again, if you see someone on a road when you're driving 60 miles per hour, it's scary and people react. So it's literally a dash around the vehicle, get my mail, wait for however long I need to on the other side, sometimes up on the hill, depending on what's coming, if there's a big truck coming, and then run back around as soon as the coast is clear, sit there for a little bit, make sure that there are no cars coming, and then again, I gun it. I have to because I have no other choice. The line of sight in either direction, not so much facing or heading east because I'm already at the top of the hill, but coming from the other direction, I don't know what is coming up over that hill. So I have to go and I have to move fast. I end up driving up all the way down over here to the corner where this auction house is. I have to pull over very quickly, again, because I am gunning it, and if there are vehicles behind me, they are on my tail. I then have to pull off, like screech off into this area, and then I wait. And I will either make a left-hand turn right over here, or I will pull out to Love Mill, come up to the stop sign, depending on what time of day it is, and then wait to make that left-hand turn. There's also a visibility issue too over here with this auction house that they have. On Saturdays and Mondays, they put out additional flags and signage, and they're so close to the road that it also inhibits your line of sight looking to the west.
Okay.
But I moved them mailboxes off the road. Cora and Thurman Love were elderly before they passed, and she couldn't get to her mailbox. So I moved it where you can drive your car completely off the road. You can drive your vehicle up to the mailbox, reach your arm in there and get it off the road.
How long have those auction houses been there?
Well, years ago, it was A.G. Williams store, then it was Lonnie Green's first, A.G. Williams, Cook's Grill and Grocery, and it's been an auction house. It's changed hands 2 or 3 different times, but it's still been one, I'd say for the last 3, 4 years. It's been evacuated by one and somebody else come in time after time.
Did you put up-
Your character's got a little cabinet shop behind it.
Did you put up a fuss? Did you put up a fuss when it was changing hands?
I'm sorry.
Did you put up a fight when it was changing hands, when the auction house was changing hands?
No.
Why not?
Did I put up a sign?
No, did you put up a fuss?
They probably didn't know about it, Patrick.
Did you?
Those things don't necessarily.
No, I don't know nothing about it. Things happen. I don't never hear nothing about it.
They wouldn't have any idea, cause it wouldn't be distributed to the public.
Yeah, and it's already zoned anyway. This right here, the contamination and the traffic is my main concern. And I think I'm already getting some contamination from the sewage, from the septic out of that thing, because it run, like I said, it runs right over to me. And, you can tell when it's got a little bit in it because it makes suds, kind of dirty suds. And, but you can't tell there's one there because when the water runs over, in them woods, they have been a place dug out as big as this room here, where, like I said, everybody used to get their water from, big old rocks dug out. And, the water just seeps down in there and then comes back up as spring head.
What I wonder is if you think this, you know, we have to deal in facts and not in what we think. Maybe you should have brought a water sample.
So here's the other
Well, we could.
issue that we had. Well, but here's another issue that we had. So I never received a letter because my house doesn't actually face, well, it faces 218, my address is 218, but I guess my property is far back enough that I wasn't informed. I absolutely agree. Facts are important. I didn't know about this meeting until I Googled it. So, you know, and we're here. I also struggled.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I struggled yesterday even just to pull up the agenda because it wasn't posted on the main page. You had the meeting information, but the agenda with the address was not included on the page. So we would have been much more prepared, including traffic reports and such. I worked late last night just trying to pull up the information as well. So I apologize that we don't have that.
I also have 4 wells right on the other side of that too.
Does anybody else like to?
I know that Bjorn had to leave, but was there any, I mean, you said it was too small of a project for a traffic study, but was there any recommendation from DOT? Did they have any input whatsoever regarding
They didn't.
sightlines?
They will restrict driveway size, but that's about the extent. They didn't require any kind of turn lanes or anything as far as that use goes.
Is there not a minimum distance or a minimum sight line that a driveway must have in order to be?
Property already has the driveway, and so DOT honors existing driveways. Now, what they try to do is mitigate additional driveways. In this circumstance, the property owner is wanting to make sort of almost like a U, and DOT seemed to be comfortable with that.
Okay.
For a house, I think that's appropriate, you know, because you have minimal traffic coming in and out. If it's a place of business, you can only, you know.
Well, you still don't rent that out as a house, you know, use it as a store. It's got to be.
We're doing it right now, because we have no approval yet for what we're doing yet.
But
It's
still,
just a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home.
yeah, but if it was its septic tank.
Can we continue on? I believe there's some other people who'd like to talk. Somebody else, please? Your name, please? Pardon?
I'm Ingrid Rowell. Rowell, R-O-W-E-L-L. And I didn't get a letter either, because my property doesn't butt up to theirs, but my home is this one right here. No, wait, is that right? I'm gonna have to help me. That's it? Okay. So my driveway is a long driveway, and it services with this house right here. And 3 homes come off this driveway, and we're at the bottom of the hill with this driveway. So what you're not seeing is the full picture of Highway 218 coming up to his place of business. This is a huge hill that comes down to the bottom of the valley. And this is a valley right here at the bottom of this treescape that goes into a deep gully back here. So at the bottom of this, where my driveway is, my mailboxes are right here. And I don't think, will it blow it up? Will it do that, sir? Like Rogers, you can see there's a pull-off. Mine, there is not. Mine is connected to this person's driveway, which is Wendy's. And there just are 5 mailboxes, 4 mailboxes right here that serve these houses. And I literally have to park my car, leave my blinkers on, and to be safe, go at night. To be able to see a line of traffic from the top of this hill and over here to check my mailbox. And it's not because we're in the rural community, it's not because people are going 55. It's in part just tremendous amount of traffic. There are tractor trailer trucks using this road as a bypass from 74 to get from Charlotte to 74 to bypass Monroe.
So until that bypass is completed, I mean, this is something that really needs to be put on hold just for the community. Because this area right here is extremely dangerous. The gentleman that lives right here beside me, he couldn't be here tonight. He is a veteran and is disabled. We have contacted the Postal Service. We have asked them to let us move our mailboxes over. It's like an act of Congress to even get that done. They won't let us. There's another driveway where this brick house that's 2 stories has access right here. They won't even let us access this driveway to make a turnaround because the county, I don't know why they won't allow it. But with the Postal Service and the county, it's just something they've not allowed. So for all of us, we have to literally park and run and pray we don't get hit by a tractor trailer truck coming down this hill. And I know you really can't see how steep it is, and it's not like 10 feet. It's literally a 30 feet or 40 feet hill. It is steep. And I don't know if y'all travel that way, but I do live there, and it is very dangerous. And to put a business right here, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you're wanting to have 2 turn-ins. I appreciate that. But still, the amount of traffic, and until that bypass for Monroe gets completed and a traffic study can be done, this road is extremely, and I mean extremely dangerous. Roger, his neighbors were very lucky that he did that for all the people that lives on his road. I'm not that fortunate. I literally have a brick wall that's about this tall, and I have mailboxes, so I have to stand between 2 mailboxes to check my mail so that I don't get hit by traffic. And literally, traffic is right here on a major highway. So until something can be done, I don't think we need any more commercial businesses. Like the other lady that spoke said, right here, when you come to the stop sign, I don't even go down that road anymore. It's too dangerous. Love Mill, to go to that intersection, I go back to Sykes Mill. There's a better line of sight. Something needs to be done with this intersection. If they're gonna put in, like Roger said, the fire department, no one's done an analysis of what more traffic that's gonna do. I mean, we just have a stop sign there. There's no turnabout, there's no light. At least at Sykes Mill, there is a blinking caution light. And they had to put that in due to how many people have been in accidents and died. And I've been one that's been T-boned at that intersection, but I feel much safer there than here. And on down the road on 218, if you looked at any of the traffic, there have been ladies that have been older ladies towards where you gave approval for that Dollar General to be put in New Salem. There's an old lady that got hit by a tractor trailer truck and died because she could not have a line of sight to see to pull out. I just don't think it's been reviewed and looked at enough. This is a it's a community that commutes. We commute to go to a business. We all have lived there. I've lived there since I was born, 1980. I've been in that house since 98. My dad built that house that I'm living in when I was 6 years old. So I feel like it needs to be reviewed, and to just automatically approve something is a scary thought, because once that gets approved, like in the beginning of the meeting, everyone kept saying, well, this one's already approved and this one's got approval and it's commercial. I mean, once we start doing this, we're gonna turn this into something like Sun Valley. In this area, that road is not ready. This is not 24/27. And it is traveled just as much, but it's only 2 lanes. Because people use it to get to the beach, people use it to just get around Monroe right now. And ever since the bypass construction has started, it is so dangerous. And I don't even know, since you're not from here, if you've noticed that. So, I mean, that's just something to really consider. And it's something on my heart, because every day I risk my life just to check my mail. I mean, I've thought about having to go get a post box, but I work in South Park and I live in Monroe. So I guess I go to McGill to get a US post box. You know, it's very discouraging when I hear the neighbors talk about how they can't check their mail, how animals might be affected, and then just more traffic. I just don't think 218 is ready for this.
Okay, any questions for this lady?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir?
As Brian said earlier, DOT, we didn't not have any kind of traffic problems as far as sightseeing, correct, Brian?
That's correct.
Okay, Now, if we will look on here on the map itself, you guys have it out, or I can point out to you. On this property, on the beginning of the property right here, which is above the hill up here, from here, it's over 600 foot. Okay, that's over 600 foot. We're not putting the business right here. That is already zone B for commercial right there. We are actually only doing an extension right here. It will be plenty enough room as it is on the blueprints right here as far as what we're doing. Yes, there is a truck right there for sale. Father-in-law put it there. It can be removed as possible. They said something about a volunteer fire department place gonna be right there. I don't see that being a business. That's the fire department. It's gonna be on its needs itself. I don't see too much traffic be coming into that.
How much traffic do you anticipate coming in and out of your shop on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, we figure in probably between 15, 18 cars a day during the day. This is not in the evening. Everybody, you know, not early in the morning, not at evening. I know most of the 218 traffic on there is early in the evening, 6:30 till 5:30, 6 o'clock. Our mainly business is going to be during the day. I'm not scheduling any appointments or anything as far as any big work or anything during the main business hours. Concentrating on the day itself, middle of the day.
Well, but people will drop off their car in the morning and pick it up in the evening on their way home, or
Yes,
drop it
sir.
off on their way to work.
There's a good possibility, yes, sir. I do have that where I'm at now. They mainly do on the way home or something like that. They do. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, if I may comment on the traffic, actually throughout the day, because that is a major route that big trucks use to cut around 74, that it's busy all day, every day. I was there, I was trying to get out of my driveway this afternoon at about 2 o'clock, and I had to wait 6 minutes. I timed it before I could get out.
Hey, Andres, one more issue right quick.
Yes, sir.
The water, what he was talking about, the creek and everything, this business is right here. Now, if you will see, he is talking all the way over here. You see what I'm saying? All the way over here, creek runs and all that. This business is taking place right here.
Runs right across from where you've been.
And the reason why it was moist and everything for there, we had a water leak. We got, reason why we had a moist area right there is because we had a water leak. The actually county come out there, fixed it, gave us a receipt on our water bill, emailed and everything. That's the reason why. It has nothing to do with the water flow, the creek, or anything like that.
Did you actually fill in that area?
Yes, we did fill in this area right here, and the reason why we filled it in because it was nothing but a gully right there. From that one previous owners right there, separating the other property. That's the only reason why right there.
It's a naturally formed gully. It's a naturally formed gully, is what it was.
From my suspect itself and being D-heck coming out there, no, it wasn't.
I've seen it there for many years.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You own the property then would be to the west, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're basically, you could put a business on that property right now.
This one
without-
right here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's already zoned.
That's already zoned before commercial.
It's just not
yes, sir.
large enough to do
It's
what
not
you
large
want.
enough for
Well,
itself. I could build a
I
small
thought there's an
one.
issue with perk.
There is a little bit issue with parking, but he could conceivably utilize the system on the property that he already owns. Our environmental health actually allows that, so he could utilize that system.
As a
even on
as a septic
adjacent
site? I mean, is-
property that's not zoned commercial, he could do that.
So you could basically pump your system to that area.
It is possible.
And that would require no,
Two buildings?
I'm sorry, say that
Can
again?
you share the system with two buildings?
Probably not. The system isn't sized for that.
I don't think it's legal anyway, is it?
It depends on the size.
Right.
There are areas where two buildings actually are served by one septic system, but the size of the system has to be able to accommodate that. That was likely sized for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house or mobile home. That's adequate to accommodate a 3-employee business. And if you start getting something much larger, probably not adequate to serve it. But for a 3-employee business, yeah, it's adequate enough to serve.
So that I'm clear, on the property that's zoned commercial, a building could be put there, utilizing the septic from the residential zoning, and there would be no need for essentially all of this. He could permit that.
That's a by right. Now, I will, there's a caveat to that. The particular use that Mr. Hudspeth is asking for requires a special use permit if he were to try and do that as a by right business. So he'd have to get a special use permit for that particular business, vehicle repair and maintenance. There are a whole host of other commercial uses that are allowed by right that would not have to get any kind of special permit. Convenience store, bank, dog grooming facility, any of those facilities could go there without any approval from this board or anyone else. It's by right on that property.
My question, if they did that, and he said, I'm gonna go in there and build another type of business, would DOT come in then and look at for speed lanes and turn-off lanes?
It would depend
and
on the
things like that?
intensity of the business. So what DOT looks at is the traffic count, which obviously that is a high traffic count road, but then they also look at the intensity of the business. So if the business is relatively small with intensity, then they're not gonna require any kind of traffic analysis. If it is larger, they're gonna require traffic analysis.
I understand, you know, where you guys are coming from, because the traffic's nuts. I mean, there's no doubt. For a small business, it's a perfect place, but for the traffic, it's insane. You know, can we require that there is a turnoff lane or some more study done because of the traffic? I don't see any problem with the business. What I see a problem with, that road's scary. I mean, I drive it a lot and it's frightening, you know, and I don't mean that negative to you guys that are to help you all. I'm just saying it is man, trucks, that's crazy. You know, it's a death trap down there.
To answer your question, Russell, ultimately that is an NCDOT highway, and they approve any improvements to their roadways. Could the county make a recommendation that a deceleration lane be put in there? Absolutely, but we can't make that, we can't force DOT to approve that. That would have to be their approval. The applicant would also have to agree to that, because again, this is a conditional application. You could say we want you to do it, but ultimately he has to agree to it before it can move forward with that.
But we could say that we.
You could say you recommend it. Just recommend it.
Well, couldn't there be a stipulation that DOT make a recommendation as to whether it's required? I mean, if DOT says yes, based on the traffic count, we recommend that it be done, then that would become a condition of the approval?
You could.
Okay.
And again, as long as the applicant, of course, agrees.
And I agree to anything that has to do with traffic or safety like that. DOT requires it, recommends, whatever it is.
Before you say that, that could be a very expensive proposition to put in a turn lane and a deceleration lane.
What we're not, and what I want to stipulate here is more than likely, we're not talking about a left-hand turn lane. I want you
Right.
to understand something. That would not be warranted for this site.
Right.
And I don't think the DOT would go along with that. What we're probably talking about is at the most what's called a deceleration lane.
Right.
That is just a way for someone to get off the main channel of the road in order to make a turn into a driveway or into a business. That's likely what DOT would consider, if they consider anything.
Coming from the opposite direction, if you're gonna make a left-hand turn into that facility, it doesn't appear, and I could be wrong, but it doesn't appear that you'd be going as fast as you would be coming down the hill. Am I?
And again, there could be some sight distance issues. This is two-dimensional. It doesn't
Right.
really show you that.
But from what
those
everyone is
businesses on the
explaining.
corners have the same issue.
Okay.
You still do, you still get cars coming from the east to the west.
Right, to the west.
Going down to 18, and again, they are traveling at a high speed. One, because they're trying to beat the cars that are sitting on either side of the stop sign from, pulling out in front of them. Also, they're coming around the bends. Actually, if you enjoy driving, it's kind of fun to go around that bend over there. And then they've done it because they see there's a hill, so ooh, great, a hill. You go down and then you come back up. So they're traveling fast in either direction.
I also want to address the water issue, or water quality issue, I should say. Is there any environmental impact that the county requires for environmental impact of water or?
Well, so here's the thing, our maps don't show this as a blue line stream. It may very well be some kind of spring head, but it doesn't show it being a blue line. Obviously, we have standards for when you have, and when I say blue line, that means that it has basically a mapped flow from the USGS. We don't have that showing on any of our records. Because of that, there are not any standards that we require. Now, if there is some impact to adjacent property owners because of, I guess, runoff from it, they certainly have a civil process that they could go through if they wanted to. But to my knowledge, there's no county standards because it doesn't show up in the stream that we would have any regulations for.
Okay. So as far as impact to the county, if by some chance there happened to be a water quality issue after a building were to be built, that would become a civil issue between the landowners, and the county would have no liability or exposure.
I don't see any at this point, no, sir.
Any other questions? Russell, Charlie?
I'm familiar with the site, very familiar with the site. The concerns they have about that hill with current traffic on it are real.
Chris?
I wish I could say differently, but it's real. The water, I'm not sure about that. I believe it does stream there whenever you have heavy rains. And so there could be some percolation that the county's not aware of. I don't know.
That was my only question a while ago. If I said y'all approved it and all, and he comes in, builds it, and then years down the road, it'll wash off everything. Because I know these parts are daily. That's what the ground in for. You got problems. And when he washes it down and hits that branch, it goes in, my land and water and branch, where I water my cows is contaminated. I'm gonna be a mess.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Anyone?
Much as I hate to do it, folks, I'd say we move not to approve.
You know, this is actually a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. On one hand, you know, my feeling is that regardless of the number of competitors that are in the area, anybody has the right to start a business, especially on their own property. So I don't think that piece of it is really an issue as far as, you know, should he or should he not operate a business. His success or failure is up to him. The issue of the traffic, I guess I'm struggling with, and understanding that there's high rate of speed, there's poor visibility. What I'm struggling with is the fact that there are possibly 15 to 30 cars in the course of a day, roughly, you know, putting that into perspective, you know, 2 an hour. And I don't know if that is enough of an impact on this road. And where do you draw that line? Is one car too many? I mean, if they get into an accident, then of course the answer is yes, one car was too many. But you have to rely on the fact that people that have an operator's license for a motor vehicle have to respect the rules of the road, and they have to abide by the amount of traffic that's on a road, and that's up to them. I think if we were to not approve businesses on busy roads because we're afraid of people getting into accidents, unfortunately there wouldn't be any business. So that, to me, that issue, although it's difficult, I don't know that that's a deal breaker. Quite honestly, I'm more concerned about the water and the environmental impacts of that area, because once that occurs, once the building is there, it's very difficult to undo it.
This does flow into Rocky River.
And you know, having said that, I think that to me the traffic can be mitigated with a deceleration lane. The business opportunity is the burden of the business owner, but the environmental impact is the one that concerns me the most on all of these. And I think the only way that I could make a motion to go in favor of this would be, one, with the stipulation that a deceleration lane be a part of the plan, assuming it's approved by DOT, and two, that an environmental water quality impact study be done to determine if there is any, I'll say validity, not that I question your ability, but if there's any validity to the possibility that water can be impacted along that area. So my recommendation would be to approve with those two stipulations.
You have a motion on the floor currently from Mr. Griffin, which is for denial. I guess you'll need to dispense with that motion, or at least if you get a second, then you can move forward with dispensing with the motion. If that moves forward, that's great. If it's not, right now you have a motion on the floor.
Can I make a motion? Can I make a motion, or do I have to wait until
You
his?
have to wait until that motion is dispensed with.
We have a motion to deny it. Do we have a second? We do not have a second, so therefore.
I'll second that motion.
You second?
Chris at the last moment gives
Okay.
it a second, so now a vote, of course.
Yeah, we'll vote. What I'd like to do is everybody raise their hands. So those all in favor of not approving this, raise your hand. 2. Those in favor of approving it?
Well,
Well, time out.
basically, the motion was to deny it, that
Right.
motion fails.
That motion failed, okay. Do we have another motion?
I would make a motion that we approve with the following stipulations: that an environmental impact study be done on the water quality to ensure that there will be no adverse effects on water quality downstream, especially, and that a DOT recommendation, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that a deceleration lane be added with DOT's approval.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, with two stipulations. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Patrick. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed?
I'll raise my hand to approve
Okay. I
with the
believe that
stipulations.
it passes with the stipulations.
What we'll do is, certainly, I want to let the audience know this is not a decision. This is nothing more than an advisory recommendation. A decision will come by the Board of Commissioners. Typically, that meeting is held at their next meeting. This will not make it at their next meeting, which is July 17th. It will be in August. A notice will go out for that hearing date. That is an official public hearing. At that meeting, the public's allowed to speak. However, they do limit you to 3 minutes per person to speak. But again, they'll have this information from the planning board. They will have a packet that they can refer to, and you can contact your council members and you can discuss it with them individually if you'd like to as well.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all's time. Okay, next item on the agenda.
Well, due to the length of the hour, the staff has no report at this time.
Okay.
Yay.
Are there any other comments that need to be discussed?
I'd like to talk now.
Yeah.
All right.
Chris
okay.
woke up.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Patrick. Second by Robert. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.